Planet Reddit. Today's story is...
They called me paranoid for installing cameras, but I recorded my wife with her ex in our living room. My wife Brooke and my in-laws are extremely upset with me for something I did, even though I feel I had valid reasons for doing it. I installed security cameras in our living room without telling my wife because I suspected she wasn't being honest with me. It turns out my suspicions were correct, but now she accuses me of being paranoid and mentally unstable for taking such extreme measures. I feel that my actions were justified, especially considering that she has tried to manipulate me before, so I am confused as to whether I should really apologize. To give some context, I am 32 and my wife is 30. We have been married for 2 years and before that we dated for 2 more years. We met through a dating app. When we started our relationship, I knew that she had only been in 2 serious relationships before. Her last relationship was with Nathan, a coworker with whom she had been together for almost 4 years. They broke up because he had to move away for work and they couldn't maintain a long-distance relationship. She rarely talked about him, only mentioning him occasionally, so I never gave it much thought. Our life together was going along happily until Nathan reappeared recently. It all started when, a couple of weeks ago, some mutual friends from Brooke's old job informed her that Nathan had returned to town and was asking for her current number because he wanted to get back in touch. After their breakup, they had both decided to move on with their lives and had cut off all communication. Nathan didn't even know that she had gotten married. My wife shared her contact information without hesitation, which made me feel a little uncomfortable. However, I trusted Brooke, so I preferred not to say anything about it. One day, she met up with some of her old coworkers for dinner and drinks. I thought that would be the only meeting and that would be the end of it. But a few days later, she told me she was going out to the movies and to dinner with a friend. Unfortunately, one of my coworkers was at that same movie theater that day and saw Brooke with Nathan, revealing that she had lied to me. When she returned home, I confronted her about it. She insisted that my colleague was mistaken and tried to convince me that she had definitely gone out with a friend, but that she had met Nathan at the cinema by chance. I didn't want to push the issue too much because the movie they went to see was very popular, and there was a possibility that it really had been a chance encounter, considering that even my coworker was there by coincidence. However, I did express my discomfort with the whole Nathan situation and asked her not to see him anymore. I was aware of how serious her relationship with Nathan had been. They had even planned to get married when they were together. So I felt it was natural that I should feel jealous and uncomfortable with the situation. I was completely honest with her about my feelings, but she laughed and minimized my concerns. She told me that I was being insecure and that, as she was married to me, there was no reason to worry. Even so, I just wanted her to promise me that she wouldn't have any more contact with him because the situation made me feel very uncomfortable. Call it intuition or whatever you like, but something didn't feel right to me. This triggered a heated argument where she accused me of being controlling and possessive, saying that she didn't like that kind of behavior. We didn't speak to each other for 3 days. In the end, I felt guilty because I really didn't have concrete proof of anything wrong and there was no evidence that she was cheating on me, at least not at the time. I apologized and things seemed to return to normal. Shortly after, she decided to organize a dinner at our house for her old co-workers, as they were all reconnecting. Nathan was invited, of course, and she introduced us. He seemed like a nice guy, but throughout the evening, Brooke was constantly around him and barely paid any attention to me. They spent most of the time talking to each other, making me feel ignored and out of place. I know I may sound like a teenager when I say this, but it's the only way I can express how I felt. After the party, I tried to talk to her about how I had felt, but once again, she told me I was exaggerating and that there was nothing to worry about, arguing that it had all happened in front of me and that I literally had no reason to be jealous or unhappy. She had a valid point, so I didn't insist on the subject any further, but I still had the feeling that something suspicious was going on. A couple of days after the party, I decided to install the security cameras because I had to go on a business trip for a few days and I had a feeling that something might happen. Unfortunately, my suspicions turned out to be true, and now I don't know what to think about the whole situation. A few days before my trip, I asked for half a day off work and, while she was at the office, I installed the security cameras, making sure they were well hidden. I was away for 3 days and, on the second day, when I reviewed the recordings, I saw that she had invited Nathan to her house. They spent 4 hours in the living room, talking, laughing and sharing a few kisses before he left. They didn't go to the bedroom or do anything more intimate, if that can be considered a defense, but I think what they did was serious enough. It was still infidelity, because they were kissing in the living room of the house we share. Naturally, when I returned from my trip, I confronted her in person about what I had seen. We had a strong argument and she decided to pack her things and go to her parents' house. For the last 5 days we haven't spoken directly, but she and her parents have been sending me numerous messages. They are trying to convince me that her relationship with Nathan was purely platonic and that I should forget what happened because she was just trying to close that chapter of her life. They also insist that I am the one who should apologize because they think it was ridiculous to install security cameras just to try to catch her in something, arguing that my actions show insecurity and paranoia. I don't know what to think about this situation anymore. I haven't been able to talk to anyone else about it because it's very personal and I'm embarrassed to discuss it. That's why I'm posting this as a last resort. Am I the bad guy for installing security cameras in the living room of my house because I suspected my wife? Update 1. I want to thank everyone for their comments, as they have helped me to gain a better perspective on the situation. It's been 2 days since my last update and a full week since Brooke left after our argument. Part of me wanted to cling to the possibility of reconciliation because I really loved her. However, every time I think about it, I can't help but remember the image of her kissing him. I don't think I can get over this, especially with that image etched in my mind. Besides, after everything that has happened, I find it incredible that she and her parents are still trying to manipulate me into believing that I am overreacting. Yesterday I finally decided to talk to them after having completely avoided them. I hadn't replied to any messages or calls, staying completely absent. Only my coworkers knew about me, since after taking a few days off, I only went out to work and didn't talk to anyone else. That changed yesterday. I contacted the 3 of them, sending them the same message. I told them it was absurd that they were trying to make me feel like the guilty one when she was the one who had cheated on me. I reminded them that there is no such thing as a platonic kiss, especially when it happens with your ex in the house you share with your husband while you are trying to close a chapter. That is a long way from being platonic. I categorically refused to fall for their manipulations. As for her accusations of paranoia and insecurity, I explained that it no longer mattered because I had caught her lying and she could no longer manipulate me out of this situation. Why I installed the cameras is irrelevant, what is important is what I found. Furthermore, I had valid reasons based on her behavior that I had personally observed, which led me to suspect that something strange was going on. I followed my instinct and it led me to discover the truth. If she hadn't done anything wrong, I would have removed the cameras. But the fact is that she deceived me, so I have no reason to feel guilty about having installed them. I informed them that I had decided not to give her a second chance. The marriage was over for me and they would soon be hearing from my lawyer. After this, I blocked them all, something I should have done a long time ago but had been putting off. Then I decided to talk to my parents, who had been trying to contact me for several days. I had also been ignoring them because I was in a very bad emotional state and was not responding to anyone. Yesterday I felt it was time to be honest and tell people what was going on. I invited them to dinner at home and told them everything. Curiously, until that moment I had hardly cried about the situation, and the few tears I had shed had been more out of the initial shock. I didn't expect this to happen. But when I told my parents what had happened, I completely broke down and cried like a child. Fortunately, my parents were very understanding. They consoled me as they did when I was little and they stayed over to sleep with me. They assured me that I was making the right decision given the circumstances and they promised me their unconditional support in whatever I needed. They also offered to help me find a lawyer if I didn't feel emotionally prepared to do it at the moment. I decided to accept their help, trusting their good judgment. After they returned home this morning, I was encouraged to talk to some friends to tell them what was going on, as I felt the need to let off steam. They all supported me and told me that I was justified in having installed the cameras. If I hadn't found anything, it would be a different situation, but the fact is that I did discover something. This proves that I am not to blame in this situation. The fact that Brooke and her parents, instead of apologizing, tried to manipulate me into believing that I was overreacting, reveals how little they care about my feelings. I have no reason to feel bad about my decisions. It will be painful, but it's the right thing for me. At the end of the day, she cheated on me, and that's all I need to know. Honestly, I feel so much better after talking to my parents and friends about this, because keeping it all to myself was only making things worse. I realize that now. Knowing that I have their support makes me feel stronger. I know it's going to hurt, because even now, despite knowing what she did, there are times when I miss her. I still cry for her, even though I know I shouldn't because she hurt me and she's not good for me. However, it's natural that it hurts to end a 4-year relationship. But with my family and friends by my side, I think it will be a little easier to bear. As soon as my parents find a lawyer, we will proceed with the divorce petition. Update 2. It's been 5 days since my last update and my parents have found a lawyer. We'll file the petition tomorrow. Brooke and her parents haven't tried to contact me since I blocked them, which I appreciate because I don't want to talk to them. I thought she would try to convince me to change my mind, but she hasn't, and I think that's for the best. These last few days have been productive. I've been packing all her belongings in boxes to make it easier for her to move when the time comes. Fortunately, our finances were always separate, so I don't have to worry about that aspect. Other than that, I don't think there's much else to do. Things are pretty much organized. After filing the petition, I'll have a lot of legal work ahead of me, so I'm trying to prepare myself mentally. If she contests the divorce or tries to negotiate the terms, I'll probably have to see her or attend mediation sessions. I hope none of that happens and we can get this done without complications, because I don't think I'm emotionally prepared to see her or talk to her, even with the lawyers present. I have my fingers crossed, but I don't know what will happen. In the meantime, I am working overtime to keep my mind occupied. This also allows me to get ahead of work in case I need time off in the future. I have spoken to my boss about my situation and explained that I might need a few days off in the near future. Fortunately, we have a good relationship and he has been very understanding, assuring me that I will have time off when I need it. I have also spoken to my colleagues in case they need to cover my work when I am absent, and they have all been very kind about it. Of course, I have the support of my parents and family. They have all been incredibly supportive and keep in regular contact to make sure I'm okay. I am very grateful for all this support, as I think it is what has kept me from falling apart time and time again. Although these days have been productive and I try to keep myself distracted, it's not easy. I'm aware of the task ahead of me and I know my life won't be the same after this. It's intimidating, so I'm nervous, stressed and obviously very affected. But having this support system definitely helps. I know I've been rambling on about things that aren't directly related to the divorce, but I need to express everything that's been going through my mind these days. I've been actively trying not to think about the divorce, which is why I don't talk about it much either. But if I have something to share, I'll post it here. Thank you for your patience. Update 3. It's been a couple of days since my last update. Yesterday afternoon, when I got back home, I found Brooke waiting for me in her car outside. She came over and told me she urgently needed to talk to me. We walked towards the house and she used her set of keys to open it. She explained that she had considered going in alone, but didn't want to surprise me when I arrived. This reminded me that I need to get the locks changed. Once inside and seated, she asked me if I really wanted to proceed with the divorce, as she had received the papers that morning. She told me that both she and her parents were very surprised because they were convinced that I was just bluffing and that I would soon go and apologize so that everything would return to normal. When she saw the formal request, it all became very real for her and she wanted to make sure that this was really what I wanted. I replied that yes, this was what I wanted because after what had happened, I could never trust her again. I explained that I didn't want to continue being married to someone I couldn't trust, as it would be a waste of time for both of us because something like this cannot be fixed. If I had believed there was any possibility of fixing it, I would have suggested couples therapy, but I didn't even consider that option, which is a clear indicator that I have given up on our relationship. She started to cry and told me that she never intended to hurt me so much or to make it look like infidelity. She confessed that in recent weeks she had met with Nathan many more times than I knew, but that they had only talked and kissed, without getting any further because she wanted to remain faithful to me. She didn't think a few kisses were significant, so she didn't think she was doing anything wrong and hadn't bothered to apologize. However, in the last few days she had tried to see things from my perspective and had realized that her behavior was wrong, regardless of whether or not there was physical intimacy. She acknowledged that she had lied to me, hidden things from me, and tried to manipulate me. She apologized for everything and suggested that we try couples therapy to fix our relationship. After listening to her, I told her that the fact that she didn't even consider that she was doing anything wrong and that she was convinced that kissing someone, especially her ex, was not infidelity, only made me less willing to try to fix things. Furthermore, neither she nor her parents had bothered to apologize to me until now, and although I appreciated her current apology, it was too late. I can't change what happened and I can't erase those images from my mind no matter how hard I try. There are some things that are unforgivable, and this is one of them. If we had been fighting about something else, I would have tried to work it out, but infidelity is not something I want to work on. It's something I want to leave behind. I've already made my decision, so there's no point in talking about it anymore. I told her that I was glad she had finally realized the error of her ways and decided to apologize, but that she no longer meant anything to me. She began to cry more intensely and was practically incoherent for several minutes. I didn't know what to say, so I just let her cry on the sofa next to me. When she managed to calm down, she asked me to think about it over the next week, promising that if after that time she hadn't changed her mind, she would respond to the divorce papers without objecting. She assured me that she agreed to all the terms, but that she just wanted me to take another week before making a final decision. I tried to tell her that it had already been decided, but as she insisted so much, I agreed to think about it. At least she assured me that she will sign the papers once this week is over if I don't change my mind, so I guess there's no problem in giving her that time. Update 4. A week has passed and this morning I unlocked Brooke to inform her that, after thinking about it, my decision was still the same. I was hoping she would reply by message, but she called me, very upset. She told me that she really believed that this week would be enough to make me see that she was making a mistake and that I would take her back. She didn't think I would really go ahead with the divorce and she begged me not to. She explained that Nathan would be leaving in a couple of weeks, that he had only been visiting for 2 months and that he had to go back to his job, so I had nothing to worry about. I replied that this wasn't about Nathan, it was about her and me, and the fact that she had lied to me, cheated on me and never shown any real remorse. No matter how hard I tried, I simply couldn't forgive something like that, and I needed to understand it. We argued on the phone for a few minutes, but when she realized I wouldn't change my mind, she just hung up. This time I didn't block her because I decided we needed to keep the lines of communication open to get this over with quickly. This afternoon, a couple of hours ago, she sent me a message saying that she had signed the papers and that after the waiting period we would be officially divorced, as she had nothing more to negotiate. I thanked her, and she replied expressing her disappointment that even after 4 years together, I couldn't forgive her for something like this. She told me it was just a small mistake and that if I had really loved her, I would have forgiven her and tried to work things out. In her opinion, by deciding to leave her for this, maybe we were confirming that it was best to separate, since clearly we weren't each other's priorities in life. According to her, first she had disappointed me, and then I had disappointed her too. But it was okay, at least this would end now and we could live our lives as we wanted. I didn't understand exactly what she meant by that, but I decided to block her again because I don't need this kind of negativity in my life. Anyway, it's all done now and we can proceed with the divorce. Update 5. A couple of months have passed and Brooke and I are officially divorced. It was finalized last week, although it doesn't really make any difference because I think she has already moved on with her life. Some mutual friends have told me that she has moved out and no longer lives with her parents. As far as they know, she now lives in another state. Curiously, it is the same state where Nathan lives. I have a strong feeling that they are living together. She hasn't posted anything about it on any social media, but my gut tells me that they are together now. This confirms to me that I made the right decision to end the relationship, because if I hadn't, I think this situation would have just continued to happen behind my back for the rest of my life. It's disheartening to know that our lives didn't turn out the way we had planned, but that's the way it is. This happens to a lot of people, not just me. So all I can do is try to move on. And that's what I'm trying to do. I keep busy with work and spend time with my friends and family, and things have been good. Sometimes I find myself missing her, but then I remember exactly what she did, and that helps. I'm better now, and I'm grateful for that.